I'm recording now, and then you can begin. Good luck, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Ruth. So I see a lot of still connecting to audio, so I'm going to give it a moment just to allow folks to hopefully connect. And allow people in who are ending up in the waiting room.
Hello, hello. It's great to see all of you today.
Great to see all of you. Thanks for joining us. My name is Liz Breyer. I am a trainer at the Coalition for Behavioral Health, specifically for the Center for Rehabilitation and Recovery. And I'm going to be co-presenting today with my colleague. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Marla Passion, Liz's colleague from the Coalition.
Am I in trouble? I only go about Elizabeth when I'm in trouble.
No. And I just want to send a shout out to one of our other colleagues, Clinton Green, who's also with us today. Thank you for your support.
Hello, Clinton. Thanks for joining us. So I'm just going to give it another minute because I do see a lot of folks looking like they might be having difficulty connecting. So I don't want to start right away and not give them a chance. Just a little bit of a heads up. I live in front of a train and they have been doing construction to it for the last couple of months. And apparently it's a federal law that when that happens, trains have to blow their horn repeatedly. So you're probably going to be hearing that today. And I apologize to NYAPRS, it will be in your recording, but there is nothing I can do about that except for moving, and that's not going to happen today. So, okay, I think we can probably get started. So, share our slideshow. Is it up? Great. Okay, so welcome everybody. Welcome to developing a personal wellness vision for self-care. I actually had done this presentation at the New York City Peer Specialist Conference and was asked to do a repeat because people seem to really enjoy it and get something out of it. So I'm very happy to be doing this again and presenting it with my colleague Marlo. So are you able, you're not able to unmute, there you go, Marla.
So I guess we'd like to set an intention for this workshop by starting it off with a grounding exercise. And as you'll see, this workshop is going to be highly interactive. So we do encourage you to get comfy with each other, with us, and let us be able to interact with you a little bit more during this workshop. And so the first thing that we're going to be doing is engaging in a short meditative exercise, a short reflection that we like to call loving kindness meditation. You might be familiar with it, but if you're not, we're going to take you through it very gently and introduce you to this meditative exploration. So the first step in loving kindness meditation is to explore what it would feel like to express compassion for yourself. So allow yourself to bathe in kind self-regard at this time. Whatever you might be going through, allow yourself to feel self-love. And if it's particularly hard at this time, imagine someone who cares about you sharing that love with you, and really feel that wherever it may be. And as you're feeling this love, this kind regard for yourself, go ahead and extend that. Really expand your heart and allow it to reach out to someone you care about who brings you joy. And go ahead and share that love with them. Think about the last time you experienced joy from this person and allow that joy to really radiate your love for them. And as you're thinking about this person that you love, the next step is, again, we're ever radiating this love from our heart, go ahead and think of someone in your life who you may feel neutral about. It could be anyone. It could be someone you work with, a colleague. I was telling Liz the other day, it could be your barber, or the person coffee from the coffee cart. Anyone in your life that maybe is an acquaintance, but someone that you can share this love with, whatever it may be at this time. And this next one might be a little bit challenging, but as you're holding love for yourself and you're radiating that kindness, that compassion for someone who brings you joy, someone who is neutral in your life, now think of someone who might be a little problematic in your life, someone who might be bringing you pain or difficulty, and share a little bit of that compassion for them. And just recognize that they too are a human being, just like us, with fears, feelings, and a desire to feel safe and happy. And finally, as a last layer of this intention, think of people, places, things, everything across the universe that you can share this love to. My heart is particularly going out to California right now with all of its wildfires. You might think of somewhere different that you'd like to share that love with, but hopefully this exercise just allows us to reflect on the interconnectedness of ourselves with the rest of the universe, the rest of the world. We're all connected somehow. None of us are separate, and hopefully we can keep that in mind for our interactive workshop for today. So if you were able to engage in this exercise, thank you. If this exercise was particularly hard, thank you for allowing us to explore it with you, and perhaps you'll explore it after today's workshop. I'll turn it over to you, Liz.
Thank you, Marla. That was excellent. I wasn't able to participate as much in it as I wanted to because of admitting folks in the waiting room, but it still helped ground me a little bit. So I think that was a very nice segue into what we're going to be talking about today. So this is what our intentions are as presenters holding this space with all of you today. We're going to talk about and share with you all developing a personal wellness vision as a part of your individual self-care practice. Look at some tools that will help you assess your individual satisfaction with connection to various community roles as a part of that overall wellness vision, and then utilizing tools provided to create and sustain a personal wellness vision ongoing. And we want to just kind of explore with all of you why we feel that that's even important, what's so unique about creating your own personal wellness vision. Just a little bit of disclosure. I have a lot of different roles that I occupy. One of them is as a certified health coach. So a lot of the thinking that I've had personally around what wellness looks like and what are some tools that I can utilize for myself that helps my own wellness vision become more of a reality is kind of what led me to want to develop this presentation to share with all of you. Because I've learned a lot about human behavior in the midst of all of the training that I had for that role. And I've learned a little bit more about what it is that people need in order to feel supported and move something forward for themselves, because it isn't always as easy as just setting a goal. Sometimes you need more support than that. But before we get into all of that, what we'd like to do with all of you, Marlo had said that this was going to be an interactive, webinar, and it is. So we'd like to start off with a breakout room icebreaker. We're going to split you up into pairs of 2. I will unmute you all before we do that, because I know it's set up right now that you're not able to speak, so I will unmute all of you. We're going to put you in groups of 2 and just have you share some information with each other, get to know each other just a little bit, so that we can all be more connected as we're moving forward with the rest of this webinar. So when you get put into your breakout room, just some basic, what's your name, where are you joining from today, because NYAPRS does reach a very large audience. So presumably we have people coming from all over the place. And then what's one thing you're open to sharing with the person that you're going to be paired up with about yourself that most people wouldn't know just by looking at you? So maybe take a moment to think about that as I'm getting the breakout room set up. And let's see, I want to do it automatically, and
I think you have to set it to, I think, 25 breakouts or
25
so.
breakouts, yeah, that sounds about right.
Perhaps.
It's showing me, yeah, the number.
Okay.
25 puts about 2 to 3 participants per room. So we'll try that. If, well, should I unmute them first? Let me,
Yeah.
I need to do that first. Sorry, guys, I am a Zoom learner. Stop sharing and do that so that I can see folks. How do I unmute all? Ask all to unmute. There we go. You should all have the option now to unmute yourselves. And I hear some voices, so I think that that should be happening. You'll need to do that before you go into the breakout room. Otherwise, you won't be able to speak to the person that you're going to be paired up with. So make sure that you unmute while I'm setting that up. Okay, I'm going to create the rooms.
Also, as you enter the breakout rooms, go ahead and open the chat box if it's not already open. We're going to cut and paste a copy of the questions in the chat box for you to refer to.
And it looks like in some rooms, 2 people will be paired up, and in some rooms you might have 3, just to give you all a heads up.
A trio. Have fun, you guys.
Okay, I'm gonna open them up.
Myself here.
So it'll ask you to join a room, and you would just click yes to go and join it. If you run into any problems, there's a raise your hand function for the host. Do that and we'll come in and try to troubleshoot with you.
Is that room? I don't know. It says room 13. Did you click on yours?
Click on it and it should take you into the breakout room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I think
So we got the name, Leo and then
I think I'm admitting a few more people from the waiting room, but Liz, you can also, in your settings, just get rid of the waiting room if you like.
Yeah, let's do that. That will just make things easier.
where do you come from?
Oh, I can't. It's not allowing me to do that. It's
Oh,
stuck.
that's very strange.
I think it's probably in the setup.
What part?
Ruth, if you're still here, you could potentially get rid of the breakout room.
Chat room.
Me?
No, Ruth. I don't know if Ruth is still here.
I'm here.
Still here.
Okay.
Hi, Rita.
Hi, Rita.
I got no, I have nobody.
Oh, were you in a room with another person that wasn't able to talk?
No, there's just no other, nothing.
Oh, you were in a room by yourself.
Yeah, which is
Shouldn't be happening.
which is completely against the situation.
I see some folks are not joining. So yeah, that does seem to be happening. There are some folks who are not joining.
We could certainly pair you up with someone now when, in a smaller group in the main room.
I want to have my own thoughts, and that's about it, okay? I do enough of that myself. That's why we're doing this.
Yeah, there are a lot of
good to know.
folks who are coming in now also. And I don't know, Marlo, do they automatically get assigned to a room then? If they're coming in, I have to do it again?
No, I think it changes the number of people, and it would change
Yeah.
the number of rooms. If anything, this is a nice learning opportunity.
It is, of the joys of Zoom.
Yeah, for those of you just joining us, we're currently in a very brief icebreaker activity in which we had hoped to pair people up in breakout rooms just to get to know each other. But I guess for those of us who are here, we could also just kind of answer the questions together here. I think the questions are, what's your name? Where are you coming from? And what's one thing about you that no one would know just by looking at you that you don't mind sharing with the rest of us. And if you like, I can go first. So hi, I'm Marlo. I'm coming to you guys today from Brooklyn. And if there are other folks who hail from Brooklyn, please I'd like to give you a shout out if you come from there. And one thing that most people probably won't know about me just by looking at me is that I came from California, not a native New Yorker. So there. Although I don't know, do I seem like I could come from California? Do I have a California accent?
You seem like you're from California easily. Easily.
Okay, I'm back. I went to go and get someone who was stuck in a room.
Does anyone else want to introduce themselves to our larger group?
Hi, I'm Michael Wolf. I am from Rochester, New York. Something you wouldn't know about me. Well, not from being home. I have 2 cats that are my girls that I love with all my heart. Enough that they're on my phone, okay? And they're my sanity.
Thanks, Michael. Good to know you.
I'm going to go ahead and bring folks back just because it looks like a lot of people were in rooms but not joining. So let's bring them back.
Well, while folks are coming back, did anyone want to keep sharing if they haven't shared yet? Your name, where you come from, and something about you that you don't mind sharing? All right, Jack, go for it.
Go for it.
Hi, yeah, my name is Jack Goldstein. I'm here in sunny Rochester, New York, which is a rarity.
I don't think of that when I think of Rochester. You'd be right.
That wasn't yesterday.
So one thing many people don't know about me is in a past life, I was a stockbroker.
To be one big one, yeah.
I was a little confused because I was going to get everybody.
All right. So for those of you coming back, it seems like some people might have not been able to join the different breakout rooms for whatever reason. So we just brought you all back. So just so that nobody was stuck. So we tried, but I think sometimes the bigger the group is, the harder it is to pull something like this off. So lessons learned. And we still have people coming in actually. So I think that also adds into the mix. If you guys would be willing to just mute yourself again, and I'll unmute you when it comes time for some interactive stuff again. So we tried this. Let's move on. So I don't know if any of you have attended the workshop that Dr. Peggy Swarbrick did, but the 8 Dimensions of Wellness, this has kind of become a standard in our field when we think about, the different areas of life that if you put all of these together, some folks might identify as living a well life. Sometimes this doesn't work for everyone. It does pretty much work for me when I think about the different dimensions of my life. There are other versions of this. Health coaching uses one that only has 6. I've seen some that have 10 or 11. So in general, these are the ones that I think most of us gravitate towards or resonate with us. What's important though about a wellness vision, why is that unique and why is that something that we should consider for ourselves, is that first of all, we've been living in a very interesting time. We do a lot of trainings at the Coalition around trauma. And one of the things that has started to become a part of the conversation is whether or not people are interpreting and experiencing COVID-19 and the pandemic as a source of trauma. And it's been kind of a mixed response to that. For some people, absolutely, that's been happening. For other folks, not so much. They haven't really viewed it in that way. But one thing that's become very clear during this time is that there's a lot of added stress and isolation and chronic stress specifically that people are experiencing in a way that perhaps they might not have for such a long period of time in their life, or it's been a while since they've experienced it to this extent, or it's just added another layer and another dimension. So one of the things that we've been focusing on, and something that we focus on in health coaching as well, is part of what helps us build our resilience and reminds us of who we are and allows us to craft skills for handling what it is that we're dealing with, is connecting it back to our why, crafting a vision of what is important to us, why things mean what they do mean to us, and trying to capture that as a part of what it is that we see for ourselves. For me personally, that works a lot better than my just picking something that I think I might want to try to make a goal for myself, something that I think I'd like to work on, but it isn't really connected to anything that holds any meaning for me. Sometimes it falls into those categories of, I ought to do this. You know, I ought to cut down eating the amount of sugar that I do, or I should probably get up out of my chair and try to walk around a little bit during the day now that I'm working remotely because I sit a lot. But when it comes to me packaged in that way of something that I feel obligated to do rather than something I feel inspired to do, it's harder for me to do it, and it's harder for me to stick with it. And a lot of times when people come to health coaches, they're coming to them for that reason, because they have all of these different things that they'd like to try to incorporate into their life, but they haven't found a way to synthesize it and connect it to anything that really holds meaning for them. So they typically tend to not stick with whatever those goals are for long periods of time. Or if they come and seek support for that, they'll do it when they're working with the health coach. But if it hasn't been established what their why is, the minute that that health coach is no longer supporting them, they may struggle again to continue to do those things. So we've just discovered over time that human nature really likes to figure out why something is important for them to do. If you think about it, for those of you who are familiar with psychiatric rehabilitation, we've made a shift away from the way that treatment for folks used to be done, which was really just about goals that revolved around treatment. And we've kind of encouraged folks to look at their valued life role. If you're someone who gravitates towards whatever, going to a particular type of a program for support, seeing a particular type of doctor or what have you, you do all of those things because you're trying to achieve something else. You don't do those things just because those are things that you need to do. So with a wellness vision, that's kind of the foundation of why we're putting this on the table as something that might be important to do, so that you can craft your why and hopefully have longer lasting satisfaction with the different areas in your life, if that makes sense. And something else that we've discovered, and that we've been, I think I've always known this, but it's definitely been articulated a lot more recently, is that self-care looks different and serves different needs for different people. So we wanted to kind of turn this over to you all, for those of you who, let me see if I can unmute, and ask, how might it be different? In what ways do you see that self-care might serve different needs for different people? Well, I may need you to help me because I'm not seeing.
I think I've asked folks to unmute.
Unmute? Okay. So you should be able to unmute yourself, and anybody who feels so inclined. What do you think about this question? In what ways might self-care serve different needs for different people? What are your thoughts on that? Because we all have our whys and our why nots.
What was the question?
The question is, in what ways might self-care serve different needs for different people? So one of the conversations that I've had recently was after listening to a podcast that was done by women of color specifically, who were talking about the way that self-care for them serves needs that are very specific around self-protection, around grounding in the middle of social unrest and racial inequity and experiencing racism. And so it wasn't necessarily that what they were doing looked different from what I might do, for example, but why they were doing it in the moment was something that I wasn't experiencing. So everybody's got their own self-care routines, or develop different types of self-care routines for different reasons. So I'm just curious what some of your reasons might be.
Well, for me, self-care helps me overcome a lot of stressful situations. For me to not break down on what I do and dealing with all our participants, self-care makes me more calm. Um, I'm very patient, even though things get really stressful. Self-care has kept me going for the past 5 years. So that's what I think self-care um, for different needs for different people.
Thank you, Alejandro. Very well said. Anybody else have something they'd like to add?
Morning. Self-care is very important, especially right now for me when I'm working at home. And so like when I'm working at home on my computer for my job, I need to take a little break away from the computer and do self-care. I might do put on some music and meditate. Or I might tell myself a joke and laugh, like be a comedian and laugh. Or I might just take a walk around the block.
Thanks, Ariel. That makes a lot of sense. So it's serving very specific needs for you. I know when I think about my why, oftentimes it's to alleviate some sort of distress, some physical distress. I live with a lot of chronic pain. So oftentimes I'm finding ways to manage that. So self-care, a lot of the time for me revolves around that. And what I've noticed when I do have such a heavy focus on one area is that I start to lack balance in other areas. I may ignore what my spiritual needs may be for too long, or I may find that I'm not really looking at my emotional needs, although admittedly, there's a lot of crossover. So if I'm addressing my physical needs through self-care, sometimes I do hit those other areas, not always. So for me, it's sort of a self-preservation type of a thing a lot of the time. Marlo, how about you?
It sounds like, I guess, similar to you, Liz, I kind of try to get attuned to what I'm needing in the moment. So I may prioritize something over another just because, you know, my mind or my body is telling me, hey, this needs attention right now. Like, I think for you, the importance presently is a lot around physical health, which can reverberate to mental health, to emotional health, like you said. But yeah, definitely hard to balance all of them out.
Yeah, and it's because sometimes it can be, sorry while I adjust my pillow, I'm sitting on a very hard chair. Sometimes it can be very difficult to find that balance around self-care. So I think also that's another reason why crafting a vision around why can be helpful. So if you're someone like me who, you know, can overdo it in some areas and neglect other areas, you know, initially out of need, but then I'll just sometimes even forget that I have these other needs because I'm so heavily focused on the one. Crafting a wellness vision has been very helpful for me in connecting back to my why and giving me that purpose, that sense of purpose. So really, we're just trying to lay the groundwork of, well, who cares? Why do we even need to have that? Why not just say, today I'm going to meditate and do it? I'm trying to build the case for some of the prep work that can go into it beforehand.
Like I like considering it as kind of an anchor, right? Life may take you in many different directions. The sea of life may have many different currents taking you in many different adventures, but your why is really something that you can hold on to, that keeps you grounded, and can bring you back to yourself when life brings you everywhere else.
Yeah, and I don't know about the rest of you, but I've been feeling like life's been bringing me on quite a journey since about March, since the pandemic really became, you know, when it took off. In New York City, that was around March. It may have looked different in other parts of New York, but we pretty much went on lockdown around then, second week of March, something like that. And I have found that a lot of things in my life look different. And some of it I'm okay with. Some of it is actually a testament to my resilience. And some of it I'm not so okay with, which is what leads us to this next tool that we wanted to share with all of you, which is something that we use in the health coaching that I was trained in, but we've kind of adapted it at the Center for Rehab and Recovery because it's a nice tool, it's helpful, it gives a nice visual in a very specific way on connecting all of these different areas and looking at your level of satisfaction with them and seeing if there's anything based on how satisfied you are in these areas that perhaps you might want to focus on with your self-care. So Marlo, I think you're going to do this.
I'll walk you through it.
Yes, please.
So some of you may be familiar with this Wheel of Life. I think someone had asked about it on the chat, whether it's available as a worksheet version. I think you can certainly Google this, right, Liz? And you can print it out for yourself for you to annotate by hand. You can also, yeah?
Go ahead. I was going to say, I can try to put it in the chat as a PDF. Our experience has been not everybody can open it when we do that. So I can put this version there. So there's many different versions of this out there. This one I particularly got through the coaching school that I attended, but I can try to put it when we're done up in the chat and see. But if not, definitely to Marlo's point, because I don't think NYAPRS is posting this information for people to download. I don't think that that's happening.
Oh, so I guess without further ado, the way that this wheel works is we take a look at each domain of the wheel, whether that's personal growth and self-care or family relationships, and we're just gonna rate it from 1 to 10. 1.
Hi, it's Ruth. I apologize for interrupting. I know you asked a question about the resource. If you give us that resource in a PDF, we can absolutely attach
There
it.
you go. So we will make
great.
sure that this is available for all of you. We'll send it on to NYAPRS and you'll be able to access it. Thanks,
Thanks,
Ruth.
Ruth. Yeah, so as we were saying, you would
Welcome.
rate, thanks again. So you would rate, you know, your level of satisfaction between 1 and 10. I think 10 is most satisfied, right, Liz? And 1 is least satisfied with that area in your life. So if you are very well connected spiritually, you hold a lot of meaning, you would rate yourself higher, maybe a 9 or a 10, than you would if you were dissatisfied with that area in your life. So we're gonna go through this right now with you, Liz.
Yes.
Let's take it from the top. In terms of your environmental sensitivity and contact, you know, what you have in your environment, how satisfied are you?
Oh, I live in front of the Long Island Railroad and I am not real satisfied with that actually. But I do like the area of Queens that I'm living in. So I would say I would have to give this about a 7.
7.
Train definitely puts a little damper on it, but in general, yeah, it's about a 7.
I'm gonna put a 7 in this area. Let's go clockwise. What about in terms of spirituality? How would you rate that?
You know, I'm not as satisfied with that as I'd like to be lately. I feel like that's taken a hit since COVID. So I would say I'm at about a 4 there.
Okay, so we're gonna dot that with a 4. Intimacy and special relationships, people in your life.
Much better. I can give that between a 9 and a 10. My husband and I have actually gotten closer because of the pandemic and working from home together for a while. So yeah, that's been helpful.
I guess along with that, how about family relationships?
That's not so great. They're all mad at us because we haven't been visiting because of COVID. So I would say my level of satisfaction with that is around a 5. That could definitely be improved.
I see. So I'm gonna put a 5 right there. And in terms of friends and relationships outside of the family.
Oh, that's even worse because I haven't seen any of them. And I'm kind of burnt out on Zoom. So every time they're like, hey, let's do a Zoom chat, I'm like, no, I don't want to. So I would put that about a 3 right now.
Okay, so I'm gonna be at a 3. How about recreation and relaxation?
I'm actually doing better at that. So I would say around an 8, yeah.
All right. Making our way around here. And as you can tell, it's not quite a circle.
Right, that's intentional. Yep.
And how about work environment and money?
Well, money could always be better, right? So I'm never going to say that that's a 10. But I actually really like what we do. So I'm definitely going to go between an 8 and a 9 there.
Okay. There we go. And finally, how would you rate your self-care and personal growth during this time?
I would say I could be doing a little bit better. Yeah, I would say around a 6.
6. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I were to draw a circle, it would be kind of an awkward circle here.
It would. And what I like about this particular visual is it kind of mirrors how those of us with lived experience, whether we identify as a person in recovery, as a person with lived experience, however, whatever your personal narrative is around this, it kind of looks like this. My life is not a smooth circle. It has a lot of ebbs and flows in it. And if you were to ask me to do this wheel 2 weeks from now, it might look different. I might be grading things differently. I might be feeling different levels of satisfaction at different times. So I kind of like the way that it isn't a perfect circle, because that to me feels more realistic. That life is just like that. Recovery is like that. Our connections to things often looks like this.
And I guess based on what's closer to the middle, right? These are things that maybe we can consider as more of a priority right now, in addition to what else might be present in your mind.
So that would be the part of this worksheet that you'll all have access to when you get it through NYAPRS. There are questions that come with it on the bottom that say, how satisfied is there anything off of here that's really sticking out to you as something you would want to really prioritize right now? And I would take this and use whatever the areas that I felt I wanted to address, because there's quite a few here that I didn't rate so high, but for me to address all of those at once wouldn't work either. Most people can successfully, according to the data and the research around change, do 1, possibly 2 at the same time. Anything more than that, most people won't stick with it, just because it becomes too complicated and too much. So ideally, I would pick one of these things, and I would try to work my wellness vision around that, potentially. So this is one thing that you all could try. You don't have to. The sheet about the wellness vision that we're going to do next could stand by itself, but I kind of like this as a prerequisite, just to get me thinking about my wellness vision. And if I had to pick one of these that I'd want to work on right now, it would probably be my spirituality and my meaning. I definitely would like to see that be higher. And I think I might affect other areas by working on that. So that's how I would use this particular tool.
Cool.
Yep, to move it forward. So thank you, Marla. So this is one technique that you could try when you're thinking about that. And even if the wellness vision worksheet turns out to not be something that this by itself might be enough. So we just put this out here as a tool, but we have more. How are we doing on time?
Yeah, 1:53.
And we end at what, 2:15?
Not sure.
I think. So we took the Wellness Life Vision tool and we put it into a slide format just for formatting issues. The questions that are on here, these 9 questions, are the exact questions that would be on the worksheet. And
You've got some time until 2:30.
oh, good. Okay,
Great.
So yeah, thank you, Ruth.
Sure.
So what I asked Marlo to do, since I offered up myself for the wheel, I asked Marlo to think about these questions just so we can show you all what this would look like for someone, what this could potentially look like for you. So I'm going to go through these questions with Marlo, just so you all have a demonstration of it. Our hope had been that we would put you all into breakout rooms then and have you work on this with another person. I don't know now, based on how the icebreaker went, if that will be a successful endeavor or if we may need to try to do it in a different way. So think on that, Marlo. I'm not sure which way we should go, but let's start first though with, and Marlo probably needs to be unmuted. Hold on.
I'm unmuted.
See, you're unmuted? Okay, good. So, and I have to give, by the way, kudos to Marlo for her PowerPoint skills as well, because she put some neat looking things in here that I would not be capable of doing. Like that. I don't possess that skill.
Disappears.
Yeah, it disappears. Where did it go? I don't know. So, Marlo, what would you look like at your ideal level of wellness? This was the first question that it asked.
Yeah, that was an interesting question. And I kind of gave a very philosophical response. Like, at my ideal level of wellness, I would subjectively look like how I would like to feel inside. So whatever that feeling is, hopefully it looks like I would look well-nourished, driven somehow, and full of vitality. So whatever that looks like.
And that might be something that you need to, whoa, sorry. That came out way faster than I wanted. And that might be then something, so if you find yourself, doing more of a global response to these questions, you could then go back and fine tune it down to things more concrete. If you find that your initial, first draw, your first responses maybe aren't as helpful for you as kind of narrowing it down might be with a second go round. But that, again, this is entirely up to you because this is meant for you.
It is.
So
I mean, tomorrow I could say my ideal level of wellness would be me wearing pants.
There you go. I like that one actually.
Rita says, I love this. Rita says riding a horse, 30 years
Riding
younger.
a horse, yes.
50 years younger.
Horses do not like me, Rita.
Rita, you are fabulous.
Yes, you are fabulous.
Fabulous at any age.
You're in the Rita fan club. That is true. So then you start with, okay, what would it look like? What does my ideal level of wellness look like? And this may include one or two aspects from the 8 dimensions or from the connections wheel, or it may include something entirely different. That's completely up to you. And then you start to dig a little bit deeper. So what are the key aspects then of this vision? So what would they be for you, Marlo? And you responded.
I think again, thinking globally, that's where my thoughts usually go. I thought of like an ongoing dance of balance, like among my 8 dimensions of wellness. And like you said earlier, nothing too much or nothing too little is to just detract really from my mission to feel whole, and whatever would feed that.
So these are the key aspects, is that balance. A balance with an ongoing dance, which when I hear that in my head, I visualize, you kind of balancing out. And maybe that looks different in your mind since it's you we're talking about, but that's what I picture when you say that. So is that accurate?
Yeah.
Then we try to take it down even further. What would you be doing more of? So sometimes for people, it's a lot easier to add things into their lives than it is to think about taking things away. That isn't true for everyone, but for some people, when you add more of the things in your life that you think that you'd like to do, the things that you're not so thrilled about that you do tend to go away by default a lot of the time because there's no room for them, because you're adding so many of the things that you'd like to be doing more of. So when Marlo thought about that question, you responded?
With the following, more physical activity, definitely. Engaging in what I would feel like are personally meaningful experiences, and in parentheses, hopefully you guys don't yuck my yum. It would
never
entail, some plant mom duties because I like plants.
She
bathing
does.
and along with that, bathing in nature, and developing curriculums for the trainings that we provide.
I love that you put that in there.
Yeah, and in general, having a balance of time between work and the rest of life.
Okay. So you kind of connected it back to the earlier question, but also you added some things like, I would be doing more of this. If I was living my best life, these are some of the things that I would be doing more of. But that also then connects to, well, what would you be doing less of? So if you were able to add these fulfilling things into your life, what might go away as a result of it? Hold on. There we go.
Oh Lord, please don't judge me, you guys.
No, no judgment. We are in a judgment-free zone.
I guess I would be doing less trying to hustle for my worth by just manifesting my worth by crossing off to-dos at work, and less kind of numbing myself with some distractions, you know. It's written there.
Yeah, I see that, the Netflix marathon. And see, that is a huge part of my self-care. In fact, I saw a meme the other day that said, have you ever run a marathon? And it was, of course, Baby Yoda, because this is a part of my self-care is Baby Yoda. And Baby Yoda responded, you mean like on Netflix? And that is entirely an answer that I would give. So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
and
everybody's got their why.
thank you, Rita. She's very kind. She says that binging can be self-care too, binge watching, that is. And I would have to agree. I'd like to stay mindful also that sometimes, you know, it's very much a treat, right? Hopefully what we're treating ourselves to won't become just our lifestyle. And that's something that I'm being mindful of.
Again, this is so individualized. So what works for one person, or what might be a pattern or a behavior that one person might say, you know what, I think I would be happier if I did less of this and started to do more of something else. It's completely subjective. So yeah, for you, Marlo, these are your reasons. Nobody can really say anything about them because they're yours. And it would be important for you to be able to connect to those. So that you could potentially move this forward to start living the wellness life that you envision for yourself.
Yeah. And Rita says maybe trying to wean myself from Netflix to TEDx. Yes, ideas worth sharing.
That is a good
So thanks,
suggestion, Rita. That is a good suggestion. So then it kind of leads itself down to, so what would you be doing more of? What would you be doing less of? Why is this vision important to you? So why does this even matter? Because that's an important question sometimes we don't ask. I don't know about you guys, but I've spent a lot of time in my life being told that I needed to do things by other people. Various people, who they are, doesn't matter, but a lot of time where my own autonomy and my own ability to self-direct perhaps wasn't as respected as it could have been. And so I lost touch with why different visions that I've had for myself in my life were important, because I spent a lot of time just doing what other people thought I should do. So this, for me, that question for me is a very, very important one. Why is this vision even important to you? And for Marlo,
was looking out for my long-term wealth. And by wealth, I mean my health, and the health of my relationships.
and that's a really good point. So sometimes for people, the why it's important is other people. For some folks, the why may be, health related issues. For some folks, the why may be employment related issues. Point is that they're your reasons why. I'm still admitting, folks, so I apologize if you see me multitasking, but
Not a problem.
it keeps bouncing up.
Yeah.
So we had.
No, it's kind of like your why is your own personal key, right? No one else can unlock the door unless they have the key. So
That is correct. And sometimes other folks may feel like they can tell you that your why is not good enough. And, that can be problematic because it's your why. So when other folks may, and I'm thinking specifically of therapists that I've had in the past who maybe thought my why wasn't what they envisioned my why should be. And so we've not agreed on that. I've come a long way in my ability to respond to that type of stuff and how I handle that now. But again, your vision is your vision. It's, if you don't connect to it, nobody else is going to be able to do that for you. That is the key piece of it. It then kind of brings it on down to, what do you value most in your life? So I hope you all are seeing the pattern, like it's trying to find what resonates with you and then kind of connect it down to steps that you can actually use to make that happen. So why is this vision important to you?
I guess it's important, like when I first experienced aspects of this vision coming to fruition was at the beginning of
Oh, yeah,
my
we're down to
tenure.
6, sorry.
Yeah, no, I guess it was manifesting back when I started as a trainer at the coalition, and my team and my leadership were fully aligned with the mission and vision of our team. And not that we don't do this now, Liz. I love our team.
I know. No, but I hear you.
But yeah, we had a culture of wellness that we upheld for each other. And I felt my most creative and my most growth as a person and professional, oddly enough, during the earlier years of this administration. And that is the end of that.
But this is a really a key element of this as well. So you may have heard versions of this from other sources in your life of, was there ever a time, what was working for you, or what have you tried in the past that's worked? This is kind of a variation on that question of, was there a time where you saw aspects of this already? What that applies to me when I hear that is that you've been able to do this, and you've been able to do this successfully at different times in your life. So try to recapture and think back to, when was that? And maybe was there something present that existed then that you might want to draw from or recreate now so that you can continue to see it? Okay, train, be quiet. So that's why that's another really important thing to be looking at is, was there ever a time in your life when you saw this vision already? And that might take a little bit of work sometimes. That takes a lot of work for me, actually, to remember when they were, A, because the older I get, the less I remember, but B, because my personality and, having different experiences and trauma history and so forth, I tend to look at what didn't work before I look at what did work. So that question was really, took time for me to be able to answer for myself, and that's okay too. But then it kind of leads down to, well, what do you value most in your life?
I guess in reconnecting to myself or my older self, part of the reflection is looking at trends in what mattered to me and what's generally mattered to me up to now, or my relationships to myself and to the people in my life. Like, above all else, like, I have experienced myself in a very poor state, and various dimensions of my life were not working out, but what I could hold hope to are the relationships, and some of the strengths that I've been able to reflect on that I can draw from to contribute to the vision would include my love of learning, never stop learning, my sense of organization, which, Liz,
Yes, there is none as organized, except for maybe Rita, actually. Rita might be as organized as you.
No one beats Rita. Rita, you should be my guru, because I need a mentor to level up.
You're very organized, Mara. One of the things I respect greatly about you.
And I like to draw a lot of meaning from my experiences, so my drive to develop meaning for things. Why is this happening, or what does this mean, and does it matter? And finally, my capacity to reflect and to take on more balanced perspectives, especially when things are not going well, like right now.
Yeah, no. And thank you for being so honest and so vulnerable about that. A lot of times in trainings and webinars, people are not as willing to go there. So thank you, Marlo, for even being willing to put that out there like that. It's greatly appreciated, because it also kind of points to why something like this is so important. Because the reality is that a lot of us go in and out of feeling kind of iff, and it's good to be reminded of our why, and given some direction and support, whether it be in the form of a vision tool like this, or maybe you take something like this and you bring it to someone that you trust and you go over it with them, and you share where you're at with another person. Again, that's completely up to you and your style and your preferences and what you actually find helpful. But when you take all of these things together, you then try to come up with a statement that sums up your idea of what it would look like to live your well life vision. So presumably it takes aspects of the other questions that you've answered, But it doesn't have to, again, because this is completely up to you. So when Marlo thought about that question, she
What's my statement?
came up with a very succinct statement. around it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for all the kind comments, by the way. I really appreciate you guys kind of supporting me and each other. And I'd like to share that support right back at you. So my statement is small things often. I took that and I adapted it from the Gottman Institute. And to build meaningful balance and wholeness. I would say that if you asked me what my 2 top values would be, it's meaning and balance. And I always look to find those values in whatever I do and wherever I go. And so hopefully you'll be open to crafting your own statements and join me in this wellness vision for yourself.
I really love this, Marla. Thank you for even being willing to answer these questions. It's greatly appreciated. And I feel like I've come to know you a little bit better in the process, so, which is always welcome. So I'm not really sure how to do this next now that, because we've also added a lot more folks. We have probably 72 participants, not including you and I.
And I think we're
admitting more
joining us.
Yep.
And so we're going to cut and paste these questions onto the chat box, I think. So I'm in the process of cutting and pasting it.
Okay, great.
There I go. It's in the chat box as a reference to you all. Liz, what are your thoughts about next steps?
So, I mean, we could try to use a hand. No, that might take too long. Maybe what we can do is just have folks try to answer some of these questions for themselves in the chat. Just because the breakout room didn't seem to work as well as we hoped.
This could be fun.
Yeah.
I guess we could do it question by question. So before you send in your responses, we're going to ask everyone to reflect. And then when we give the say-so, hit the enter button to send it in so that we see everyone's responses all at once. Would that work?
Yeah, that could work. I'm trying to get the chat back here so I can also see it.
Yeah,
yeah. So let's try this then with question number 1. And again, don't feel pressured. If this is not for you, if you don't like this, not taking it personally, this really was just meant for a possibility, one of many, I think, that we can draw from to talk about our own wellness. So let's start with the first question. What would you personally look like at your ideal level of wellness? And feel free to put that in the chat. So I know for me, I would look rested. I'd be
You do look well rested, Liz.
No, that's makeup. Rested, be at peace, and less pain.
And I think sharing it among us can be very invigorating too, because we can draw inspiration from each other. And it can feel very uplifting to be hearing from folks what their visions are.
Absolutely. And I'm seeing some great things in here. Connected, yes. I should have put that. I would always be seen and heard singing. I need enough sleep. Great listener.
Oh, Victoria, I hear you, girl.
Yeah. That's why I love connecting to all of you through conferences like this, because my soul gets nourished when I see all of your answers. I always have a smile on my face, meaningful relationships, and apologies if we miss someone's response. The chat tends to go by fast sometimes, so we may miss. Feeling hopeful, rested, and inspired.
Ooh, Rita, I'd like to join you in nature with your horses.
Oh, I miss Rita's. A nap marathon every day. Cameron.
Cameron, I will join you in that.
Yes. Can
nap
we start
in
taking
nature.
Siesta? Can we take siestas? I would love to take a siesta.
Siesta in nature, yes.
Netflix napping, yes. I think I would, like my ideal level of wellness, I would be 45 pounds lighter, sleep more, organized, clean environment, doing my art every day, emotionally calm and financially secure. Amen, Evelyn.
Quite a vision.
Yep. More music, walking on the beach, watching the sunset. I would love that.
And I can imagine a few of these visions could happen immediately right after the webinar. Or during. So Jack, you could turn on that music right now.
Yep. Although keep yourself muted if you do that. Just until we're done.
Oh, no snow.
Yes,
Hopefully
Rita,
not
preach.
soon.
All right, so maybe let's take a look at question number 2. So what are the key aspects of this vision? So when you think about the things that you've laid out for yourself, what are some of the key components of it? So for me, I said I put I'd be more rested. Sleep is definitely a key component of that. More meditation, or more mindful, I should say. So meditation isn't always where I go.
Oh, I didn't realize it had something to do with actionable items.
It can. It does not have to.
That would have changed my answer.
So you can always put your answer in the chat.
I might.
Sleep, more mindfulness, and I guess better control over my physical symptoms.
Well, not to give out an ad, but for those of you who are seeking meditation but haven't found a place, Ruth does an excellent meditation, I think, daily through NYAPRS.
Yes, that is true.
Start your morning off right.
With Ruth's happy face, too.
Thank you so much, guys.
You're welcome. Healthy, happy, and holy. So you're thinking about what are the key aspects of this vision. That would be the next step. More family get together.
Oh, yes. And I think you could connect that back to the wheel, the domains in the wheel that we went through, right?
I definitely connected mine to that because spirituality is always something that I feel like I'm trying to work on. So yeah, for me, these things are definitely connected. And then it kind of lends itself to the next question. What would you be doing more of then? So if you were trying to visualize this wellness vision and really make it happen, what would you need to add? What would you be doing more of to make that happen? So for me, sleeping would be one. I would definitely go for more walks in nature because that helps me feel grounded and centered. There's a lot of research actually around that I learned through health coaching about that. And more so if you can actually take your shoes off. I know that may sound
nature
weird.
bathing.
Yeah, connecting to the earth. Yep, connecting to the earth with bare feet for a lot of people is very healing and very helpful.
Being a hobbit doesn't hurt.
So what would you be doing more of? I see a lot of love to walk in nature, more exercising, getting well rested and getting out more with others.
I see a nature group forming.
I do, and a lot of walking groups. Yeah, biking, meditation. You guys are really doing great at this because you're connecting to some really concrete things. So if you choose to take this tool and really do this for yourself, you've got it. You've got the technique around it of what it would look like, because you're really trying to be specific so that you can actually see it happening. What would you be doing less of? Absolutely nothing. I don't get to do that too often. Yep. You know, I think a lot of folks who were able to shift to working remotely, you know, for a little while, it felt like people were saying, oh, but you get to work from home. It's a lot of work. Working from home.
I am the first to say it's been more work to work from home.
Yes, I am definitely, it is more work. Yep, absolutely. So what would you be doing less of? What would you be doing less of, Marla?
I love that, Amanda, slowing down.
Yes, yes. So I would be drinking a lot less caffeine because that I know is making me feel not rested, even though it's supposed to have the opposite effect.
Guni has a nice setup of less computer, phone, and TV. So disconnecting from technology, sometimes unplugging. It works for most things, including us.
And I would, so here are the 3 things I'd be doing less of. I'd be drinking less caffeine. I'd be giving in to stress less. And I would be doing less complaining because I find that internal dialogue that I have with myself goes a long way to keeping me in a place that I don't want to be in. So I'd be doing a lot less of that.
I don't know, Liz. I would probably have a conversation with your feeling of complaint and ask it what it needs.
You're being way more nourishing to my complaining self than I am. Yeah, but giving into stress a lot less. Yeah, I find that my go-to is to just, if stress is at the door, I will open the door wide and say, come on in, have a cup of coffee. I could be doing that maybe a little
Befriending
less.
your stress?
I am, I'm friending my stress.
To get good at your stress?
Yes. So I'm gonna ask you all, why is your vision important to you? Why is having a wellness vision important to you? And that really is kind of the crux of your why. Why even do this? Why does it matter? Keeps me centered, healing, balance.
Yes, Susan. I'm with you about balance.
Because it would help me in all aspects of my life. Stop and think before reacting. Yep, I need to call and talk out what I might do before it gets out of hand. Vision is based in hope, and hope is the basis of recovery. When I think about my whys too, it often includes my family. I have a husband that sometimes doesn't get the best of me because I don't feel well. So when I think about, you know, trying to get my physical health stuff under control, a lot of the times it's so I can spend more time with him and so I can spend more quality time with him.
Yeah.
Yep.
That tells me of just the power of connection, right? We're not alone in a lot of the things. And it can be really powerful to be connected and stay connected.
Can be. And Michael, to your question, I think absolutely you can take this and use this with a wrap plan. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, adopt and adapt it, however would work for you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Resilience is our default. We get told a lot of times that it's not, from various sources, whether it's the mental health system or any of these other systems. Sometimes it can be our own negative self-talk. Sometimes it can be well-meaning people who unintentionally give a different message. A lot of different ways for us to get told that we're not resilient, but it's actually our default. Humans are resilient by nature. So that well-life vision is something that I think we don't recognize enough when we actually are doing it and when we have it. These questions are not ones that I thought of, to be honest, until I was exposed to it. When in your life have you experienced aspects of your vision? So was there ever a time when you were seeing yourself that you can think back that you were actually doing some of those things? For me, it was definitely when I was younger. And more physically active.
So you're reconnecting with your younger self there, who might be a little bit of a stranger to you now.
Well,
it's still there.
It's still there, but
still
I have to rediscover her. Yep, younger, when I was more physically active and when I was connected to more people. My spirituality did a lot better when I was connected to more people.
Yeah. And you know, you are going to be your youngest self now. So if you were to do another creative exercise of maybe imagining your 80-year-old self or your 90-year-old self checking in with your present self.
Can we stop at 60? I'm not ready to go to 90 yet.
I mean,
but yes, you're right. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, what would you tell your 90-year-old self? What would your 90-year-old self tell you about what they appreciate about you, what you've done?
Oh, that's a whole nother webinar. That's a really good question, though. I need to think about that. And that's, yeah. Oh, Molly, you're making me think.
Yeah, well, my 70-year-old self would tell me I am fabulous and I am doing the best that I can with what I have.
Yep. My 90-year-old self would definitely say, eat more chocolate, though. I feel that is something she would say to me.
Chocolate always understands.
Yep, she would definitely say eat more chocolate. So just for because we're coming up now on kind of wrapping up with this webinar, if you could think about a statement that sums up what your idea of a well-life vision would look like, what could that potentially be?
Oh, Cameron, I love that, by the way.
I love that too. I've got your back. Yeah, that was awesome. And this one, maybe, go ahead.
Oh, and I took mine from something that already exists. Small Things Often exists from the Gottman Institute, and I adapted it for my own statement. So if you're connecting to a particular quote or a mantra, take it and make it your own.
Kind of like your theme song. Like this would be playing when you walked into a room, or somebody would be announcing this when you walked into a room.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So I have various theme songs that I've often played in my head when I go into certain places, but now I'm going to be thinking about, you know, what is the statement for me, for my wildlife vision? And if I had to come up with one without giving it a lot of thought, what it would look like to live my wildlife vision, I would be intentionally moving through life with purpose and peace and love.
I love that. And I love a lot of the statements that folks are putting out there too. I am perfectly imperfect, done my best, read, listen, talk, walk, eat well. Love it. And I would say after this workshop, please don't let these statements sit on the shelf.
Absolutely.
Really allow yourself to, I'm using bathe a lot, to bathe in that statement and allow it to really permeate your life. Hopefully you get constant reminders of it.
It's really been such a joy to share this space with you all. Thank you so much for choosing to come to this workshop and for spending the time and for being as interactive as you all have been and giving us your thoughts and your feedback. I really hope that this is something that would be of use to you. So we will for sure be giving this to NYAPRS so that they can upload it and you can all have access to it and revisit it as often as you feel led to. I look at this now that I know that this exists. I go back to it quite often. And it sometimes changes, you know, depending on where I'm at and what my head space is like in that moment. But it's here for you all to access. And I hope that this was useful. And I don't know, Marla, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I thank you all for choosing this workshop. It shows us that you've chosen yourself today, and hopefully you'll continue to choose yourself as you go into the weekend by practicing this practice, I think, of self-compassion, choosing yourself first. It really allows you to then radiate that compassion and empathy to everyone else. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yep. Great ending thoughts. So take care, everyone. Maybe I'll see some of you in the next workshop that I'm doing, or Walking the Fine Line.
Walk the fine
If
line.
not, be well, be happy, be safe, and I'm sure we will see you somewhere again soon. So take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Much love.